Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks so much for being here. And on behalf of Hello World, the mentorship program offered by the College of Computing, Data Science, and Society, thank you all for being here on a Friday afternoon and flying from far away and making time to talk to our students here. So thank you so much. And of course, thank you, Arda, for organizing everything. And I think afterward, when you guys are networking, you should also network with Arda because he'll give you many tips on how to connect with people. He's pretty amazing. So anyways, I'll let you take over, Arda.
Thank you, Marcia. This is good? Okay. Thank you all for coming to our panel. We have amazing panelists. How this is gonna go is I'm gonna give a quick introduction, then I'll start asking some questions. After we're done with like the classical questions, I'm gonna open up the floor for you guys to ask whatever you have in your mind to our amazing panelists here. And then the last half an hour is gonna be open networking, where you can just walk up to the stage and then meet with them, introduce yourselves, and network. I'll start with our quick introduction with our panelists, and then I'll move on to the questions. We have Jason, who is the CEO and co-founder of Arize AI. He studied EECS at UC Berkeley, so go Bears on that. He's a second-time founder who took his first company to mogul from a small, garage startup all the way to the IPO, and later got acquired by Adobe. He then co-founded Arize AI, now one of the leading AI observability platforms in the industry. Fun fact about him is he worked across a wide range of roles: ASIC design engineer, system architect, chief strategy and innovation officer, and obviously founder and CEO. Then we have Alfredo, who is the CEO and co-founder of LatchBio. He also studied EECS at UC Berkeley, another Go Bears there, where he also was the president of machine learning at Berkeley. Before LatchBio, he worked at Google Brain and Facebook. He and his co-founders dropped out their senior year to start LatchBio. A fun fact about him is he won Cal Hacks in 2019, and he's originally from Guadalajara, Mexico. Lastly, we have Cobi. He's the co-founder of, he's the CEO and co-founder of Chapter. He studied economics at Wharton and diplomatic history at UPenn. Then he got a master's of philosophy from Cambridge. Before Chapter, he was on the US government team at Palantir. He started Chapter because his own parents nearly enrolled in the wrong Medicare plan and overpaid a lot of money, making them literally his first two customers. Fun fact about him is he testified before the US Senate Finance Committee about the Medicare reform. Please welcome our guests with a warm round of applause. Coming here on a Friday afternoon, so we'll thank them later again throughout our panel. Starting with our first question, I didn't go into much detail about your companies, but Jason, we'll start with you and then we'll go over there. Can you tell us about what do you do, what does Arize AI do, and who are your customers, and what are you hoping to change in the industry?
Yeah, I don't know if you can hear that. We'll see if this is working. So Arize AI is one of the leading companies in evaluation and observability. Our mission from day one was make the world's AI work. And it came from my previous company that I built. It had a ton of at the time it was ML, and that it was really hard to stand up. So Arize means like standing up, it may come to life, and it was just really hard to make the stuff kind of do what you wanted. And so the vision was build software to help humans stand up and make the stuff actually do what you want. Industry's been exploding in the last couple of years. Awesome. My vertical evals are insanely fun. So feel free to grab me afterwards if you want to talk about it. But great to meet you all.
Alfredo.
Hey everyone, I'm Alfredo. So what we do at LatchBio is we build the data infrastructure for biology, and particularly computational biology. So as some of you might know, especially those in the life sciences, data from wet lab experiments in the wet lab from scientists, they're generating way more data than ever before. It's like 10x every 2 years. So over the last 10 years, it's like 100,000 or 1 million times more data. So because of that, scientists who used to finish an experiment and look at it through a microscope, today finish an experiment and get back a file that is a terabyte big. It's like, what do you do with that? They don't know what to do with that. And so they need to triangulate with a computational biologist to do that. And we are building data infrastructure to make that process easier, both to help the computational biologist process that data faster, help the scientist for more of the basic analysis be able to do that analysis itself. And long term, we believe that with the recent things in AI and automation, we can automate most of that comp bio domain in its large majority of what is being done today, so that these computational biologists can focus on the more research type of problems. And so we work directly with over 300 pharma companies and over 30 plus technologies in the space, technologies being different data providers. And we're a Series A company. We're about 35 people. And our goal is to build the data infrastructure for computational biology so that we can make biology easier to engineer and cure all diseases one day. So yeah, super excited to be here, and go Bears.
Thank you, Alfredo. How about Cobi?
Hey, everyone. Great to be here. Chapter is really trying to make it easier for people to define what it means to be older in this country and then the Western world. As a society, we do a really bad job supporting our elders, from Medicare, which is what we really focus on today, to Social Security, to just what does it mean to have purpose in this phase of life. And so we're trying to help people find that purpose and have the health and the wealth they need to live the best chapter of their lives, hence the company name. The way the business works today, we focus on helping people navigate Medicare because it's one of, if not the most consequential financial and health decisions people make in retirement. The entire system is out to get people. It's like one of the slimiest industries I've ever seen. Everyone's basically evil. And we are trying to be the antidote to that. And I sound kind of crazy when I say that, but it's true. Yeah, happy to chat more about it.
Thank you, Cobi. We'll go in reverse order this time. I kind of mentioned how your story with your parents about, identifying the problem, but what other things made you want to start your own company rather than joining one? And if we're talking to students here, and what would you advise them to think, like how they should think about it when they're considering it?
It's a hard question to answer because I don't think there's not one answer. Like for some people, I actually didn't try to start a company. It was quite accidental. I did interview with a lot of other companies. I almost joined 2 other companies when I was thinking about starting Chapter. But when I saw my parents going through the Medicare enrollment process and I started looking into it, I became more and more obsessed with this idea that we just don't have good infrastructure, technology infrastructure, data infrastructure, educational infrastructure for seniors as they navigate retirement. And so just went down that rabbit hole and couldn't find any good options for my parents. And so that's why I decided to build one. I don't know that there's I think for some people it's fine to, a lot of people, there are probably a lot of successful companies that have been built by founders who are looking for a problem because they want to start a company. There's nothing wrong with that. But I think generally it is better to have a problem you're really excited about and then say, oh, there's not a company already working on this, so I'm going to go start one. Really, because it's so hard. Starting a company is so hard. It's just so terrible in most ways, at least for the first couple of years. At least it was for me. You guys. Oh, thank you. Is that better? Cool. You just really need to care deeply about the problem you're solving. And I think not that you can't care deeply about a problem that you solve going top down, but I think in a lot of ways it's easier to care deeply if that problem is something you've experienced.
Now, Alfredo, your route is a little bit more unconventional, maybe more conventional than Berkeley, but you interned at a couple of big techs and you're like, I'm going to drop out and build my own company. Can you walk us through that, journey?
Yeah, totally. I agree with a lot of what you said. And I think for me, definitely wasn't drop out and start my own company. The way it started is just working on projects. And actually the way I recommend usually is rarely is it a good option to just be like, I'm going to drop out and go start a company. I was working with my co-founders now at the time, friends, on CalHack projects, on TreeHack projects, on different projects that we were working on because we found interesting, because we were curious about the domains, and because we wanted to just work on cool stuff. And we didn't even really think about a company. I'm not even sure I was very aware of what a startup actually entailed at the time. As we started working together with different people, with different groups, me and my now still co-founders and best friends, it became pretty clear that we wanted to work together more and more and more. And at some point, school, which by the way, I love school. Maybe this is like a hot take from a dropout founder, but I actually would have loved to have 6 months or 4 more years to just study things in a library that I just want to study for the sake of curiosity. And I do not recommend anyone drop out. In this case, we just each kind of wanted to work together. We had found the domain we wanted to work in, and we knew how prescient the problem was at the time. For me, data infrastructure, for my co-founder, bioengineering, and together kind of what we've built now. But I don't recommend dropping out. We were really working on projects, and if you want to start a startup one day, my recommendation is just go work on cool projects with your friends. And my final recommendation is kind of in theme, like, don't start a startup unless you like absolutely just cannot do anything else, because it really does kind of suck. So yeah, that'll be a theme of many of my answers today, but yeah.
All right, let's hear from you, Jason.
Yeah. So I came out of Berkeley, and I'm going to date myself, but I came out of Berkeley in the first .com boom, which is a little bit like the internet rush right now, y'all. And I joined a startup, which was insane. And the ride that I got, like, in that startup. So what was amazing about the startup was like, I was given way more than I was just out of school, and I shouldn't have been given all the projects they gave me. And way more responsibility. I ended up realizing that, I don't know, I felt like I knew what to build and how to build. And so at some point, I'm just like, I want to go start a company. I want to take this crazy risk. And it's hard. The first time entrepreneur is really hard. And there was when I did it, there was no online stuff that you have. You have so much these days, and so you learn it all by the rough bruises and cuts you get as a first time founder. But it's amazing if you're driven, if you are passionate about building, if you don't give up. A lot of Berkeley eeks, I think DNA. It's one of the most amazing things you can do. So that experience, and then what I did in that one, I just found a big market and made a bet and built some stuff in it, and then people started to use that. And so just go build. My recommendations: build a bunch. But if you feel like you don't like being in a box and you kind of think different and you push the boundaries and you're driven, entrepreneurship might be for you. Just know it is really tough. It is like the toughest thing you probably can go try to do.
Talking about the challenges of being an entrepreneur and, maybe all these tough days. You guys are making countless decisions every day. I'll go from here, Jason. Yeah. Can you maybe give us like an example of a decision that you made where you thought it was right at the time, turned out to be wrong, and how did you manage that situation, if you can recall it?
Yeah, kind of a I mean, there's a lot. I think every day. I think I think there's I think as an entrepreneur you need to constantly be. It's this weird dynamic of everyone, at least in the beginning, is going to tell you your idea's bad or dumb or wrong or off, and you're going to get a million no's from people you're trying to raise money from, and you've got to not believe them in a little way. So have your own faith, but you need to be humble to do ads. But then that market wasn't big enough. So then we started to automate ad buying, which was big enough. So we ended up with a massive company that automated ad buying. But then people were like, well, why wouldn't I just call my friend at CNN and buy ads? Why do I need to buy it through software? And we're like, no, honestly, it's a great, people don't need to call people on the phone. I think all these things, you think this idea is great in the beginning. We thought analytics was it, but we had to, where we ended up in the end, it was a massively different thing. And so I'm not quite sure it's exactly what you talked about, but I think every day you need to question yourself as an entrepreneur. You need to figure out when you make that left turn, when you make total different decision. And in the beginning, it's a lot. Like you might not have nailed it all. Your first bet might have nothing to do with where you need to go. So.
that challenge of knowing like when to pivot or how to pivot, et cetera, right?
Yeah, and I think in the beginning, we pivot. In both companies, we pivoted a lot. So you're pitching, you're trying to get usage of something. You're listening to the customers design partners who might be using it. Oh, no one's using it. Okay, you should see our statistics in the first couple of weeks once we launched our product. Like no one was using it. We're like, oh my God, what do I do? And I mean, we looked at them, and so I think you need to be like super honest with yourself and figure out like, do you make that left turn? Should you? And the only way you figure that out is by looking at what people are using and liking, and then having a little bit of your own belief, but then your product throws out there and tries to test that belief a bit.
Thank you, Jason. How about Alfredo?
Yeah, totally. So I will say to me, the one, I mean, yeah, like you said, probably every single week I do stuff that I'm like, oh, that was so dumb. But for a room full of like engineering students, engineering and students, I would say our first mistake is building something nobody wants. And it sounds like silly, like why would you ever do that? But the reality is our take on what people wanted was just so bad at the start. And I think the way to do that is not by having kind of more knowledge, or the way to avoid that is not by having much more knowledge, but it's by going out and talking to people. Ideally, you're building in a space that you know already very well, or that you're your own user. But obviously that leaves out a lot of, especially for us students, it leaves out a lot of like the B2B categories that are really exciting, like science and like biology, that you might not have as much expertise on. And so what I would say is, initially when we started, we kind of, oh my God, our first project, when we decided to actually, okay, let's turn this into a company, was actually not Latch itself. It was an EEG headset to predict for marketers. We were like, oh, we can predict people's emotions with EEG and then sell that to marketers. And we knew 0 marketers. And we were like, oh, surely we should not go talk to any of them until we have a fully working prototype. And so some of the CS people here can imagine how hard building a prototype for that is. We did. We spent like 4 months building that prototype. And then we went to, not to show it to people, to go sell it. And well, everyone here can imagine kind of how that went down. And that's an extreme example, but it's very easy to get yourself in this situation where you're like, oh, this is so obvious. My take now, and the way we operate at Latch today, I handle most of the sales, even though I'm technical. My co-founder is way more technical, and he's kind of the CTO. We actually build almost nothing without having customers ready to put down dollars for that. Because even having someone tell you, oh yeah, I really need this. Like, my take is, like, no one's gonna tell you your baby's ugly. They'll really, really avoid telling you your baby's ugly. But people really like their dollars. Like, people really like their dollars, and they don't want to give them to you. So if they're giving them to you, it's because they're like, you're actually solving a real problem. And so if you guys are thinking of starting a company, I would really forget all your technical skills, put them aside. Vibe coding is really easy. I bet that's not the risk. Yeah. Go talk to people, and not only talk to them, ask them for money and ask them to pay for something that doesn't exist. If the pain point is deep enough, they probably will. And I know that sounds crazy because like most of you are like on a student budget. I was there very recently. It's like, wait, someone will pay you thousands of dollars for something that doesn't exist? Yeah, they will. And it's a really good litmus test for whether you're pursuing something that makes sense. So that's my biggest learning.
Thank you, Alfredo. How about Cobi?
Totally agree with that. I think the biggest mistake I see anyone make is building before they should. Like, you should not build anything at the beginning. You should actually just figure out what's important to people. But maybe a different take on the question. I think hiring is probably one of the areas where and I think most of my friends who have started companies mess up the most. It's just really hard to know who's going to be good in a given situation. I think some people are good in different contexts, and some people are bad in other contexts. I worked with some amazing people at Palantir who are very, very strong, and then you put them in a startup and they're not as strong. And so it's just really hard to tell sometimes. So hiring is one of those areas where consistently from day one to today, how we handle it is very different, but that is something that we consistently mess up.
What are some like tricks or rules of thumb that you've learned to
for hiring?
Get past that.
Be as judgmental as you can. Like, ignore advice on like, don't be biased, don't be judgmental. No, you want to be biased. You want to be judgmental. You want to be opinionated about hiring. Like, you actually don't. So you want diversity of background and thought, but you don't want diversity of culture. There's like an important distinction, because if you have diversity of culture, you are just arguing with people over fundamentals, and that's not what you should be spending your time on. You need people who agree with you on fundamentals, and then who have like lots of different perspectives around that, but you have to have a base layer of homophily. Otherwise, you're screwed. And like, this is one mistake. This is something I didn't really understand and respect deeply at the beginning. And I think as soon as you are, it's not like the most PC thing to say, but like, you actually don't want diversity in this way. And that's very, very hard to grapple with, but very important.
Do Jason or Alfredo has a take on what Cobi said?
I don't know. I mean, I look for different stages, different things. I mean, I look for driven people. Drive is hard to, I've probably hired thousands of people. And if I rewind to the beginning of my career, like, I don't know if I'm a little bit better at it now than when I started, but it's because you get this tiny little signal. Like, you spend 30 minutes with someone, maybe a couple times, and you got to figure out what it's going to feel like to spend every day with them. And it's just really, really hard. It's a tiny little bit of signal. So I think it's really hard. Yeah, I don't know if I don't know if I look at that the same way. I kind of look for a certain characteristic, and I look for that entrepreneur on the other side a little bit sometimes. Those are kind of the amazing people, smart, driven, hungry, go get it. And then trying to get that whole group of people who can figure it out, because we all don't know what we're doing. On the pitch thing, like I love, but the device here is so deeply good. We originally had, before vibe coding existed, we had clickable mocks before we had a product. So it was images where you would click it. It would look like the thing was real, and it was just images of our product. And we're out selling that while the team was building. And I didn't tell people it was fake. I probably should have. But it's just, you can, and I was just like, and like one or two people called me out on it. They're like, that's not a real product, is it? But the whole point is, like, you don't need something to sell it. You can go pitch your idea, and as long as you can be convincing and show something that might look like it. And nowadays you have vibe coding. Like, you can create exactly what I did, but actually have it mostly work, and demo someone something, and then no one wants it. You could next day rip it out and try another. Like, your ability to do this in a way that actually is a little bit more legit, I think is powerful. Is really powerful. So get something in front of them, see if they use it, see if they get value from it, see if you can sell it, and don't spend a million hours thinking every little feature, because you don't know until it's in their hands using it what they're going to need.
I hope you guys are taking notes on all these great advice. Also take notes on the questions that you guys are going to be asking after these questions. But my next question is about hiring. You guys are here to obviously meet with Berkeley students and see them, but potentially hire them as well. Right now, the market is very saturated, but we got a lot of students, maybe not that many jobs. On top of that, also we have like AI that's kind of like coming in there as well. So what advice? Well, the first question is the classic one of how do you stand out? All the students probably have the same question here of how to stand out as a student. There are a lot of students who goes to great schools. There are students who does a lot of great things. But when it comes to standing out, sometimes they're not maybe doing the best. From your experiences, we'll start from Cobi. From your experiences, how do you think the students should do better at standing out, and what should they do?
I think it really depends on the type of company you're looking at, but broadly adapting your approach to that company. So if you're like applying to a very big tech company, they have a lot of different sort of entry points. And figuring out the right entry point that matches your skill set or that makes the most sense for what you're doing. For a startup, it's probably, depending on the company, it's probably more network-based. Like, figure out someone to get an intro to someone to get an intro to someone who works there is probably the best way to stand out, usually. And then again, I say it really depends on the startup. Like at Chapter, we don't actually have open roles. We don't have job descriptions. If you look at our website, it says 0 open roles. It's not zero. Sorry. We're very much hiring a lot. It's just that I think job descriptions are kind of dumb. And so like we design roles around people. And so for us, we're looking for like who are excellent people who broadly match broadly what we think we might be looking for. And then we'll try to figure out a role for them. That's not a typical approach. But like if you or if a student came to me without like looking at our website and understanding that like, and we explain it on the website why we do this, but like basically came with like a very rote, like the same way you'd look to like apply to Google, I probably wouldn't look at it the same way. And my point is just like tailoring it to the company you're applying to or trying to get an intro to.
Doing your homework as a student?
Yeah.
How about Alfredo?
How many people are we? We have two sides of our company. We have our sort of Medicare advisors, and then we have our HQ. We're an exceedingly small team. We're about 35 people, exceedingly small team for our stage.
Yeah. Wow, that's amazing. Yeah, that's a really cool thing that you guys are doing there. What would I say? I mean, honestly, my advice would be very similar in that sense, like focus and maybe taking it more from like your own stance. I would say in general in life, you want to be like pushing yourself somewhere rather than being pulled somewhere. And I think as a startup, hiring, you really appreciate that. And so if I see a student that is coming at me and just like, oh, I can code, and then like, do you have a role open? That's very different from like, oh, hey, I have decided that I want to spend my time in the computational biology software space. I believe your company is one of the winners in that space. Oh, and hey, by the way, because I decided this a year ago, this is what I have done that is genuinely impressive. And in sales, that might be like, oh, I worked for this other company, I generated this much for them. And software, that might be, hey, I created this open source project. Like, if you do that, you're already in the, like, especially with Berkeley on your name, you're in like the 0.1% of applicants. The problem is that most people don't take the time to actually think about, like, they want to be pulled. They want to just apply to a bunch of places and kind of hedge their bets and then just be pulled wherever and just kind of do the role. And I would say that might work in big tech and it might be the right approach for big tech. But if you're trying to work at a sub 50, sub 100 person startup, I would say you want to be the one pushing and you actually want to focus your stamina because you're not going to go do an impressive project in an area if you're focused in 50 areas. You really got to be like, hey, I really care about healthcare. And so I went out and put this really impressive research report on like Medicaid and Medicare. And like I made this app and like I got 10 users. And I think this is how you should be improving your app because of what I found. Like if he gets that email and he doesn't interview them, I would be very surprised. But that, again, sending that email and doing that work, which takes a lot of work, already puts you in like the top 1%. So most people just don't do that. And so, yeah, that would be my rec. I mean, it's harder done, that's said, but yeah.
How about Jason?
Yeah. I think as you're, I'll talk about attributes first. So if you're CS in EECS, we are, and maybe I'm going to bias everyone who's I'm going to talk to you here, but we are, there are some folks that we talk to that like haven't used Cursor or Cloud Code. You're probably immediately voting yourself out of what's the future of what we need. Hint for you there. In terms of getting in front of us, it is just look driven. Look, show me projects you've worked on. I build outside of school, like just build something. It's so easy these days. So go build a piece of software, push some stuff to an open source project. So I think it's like a little bit of initiative outside of just classes. Like when I just see a resume that's just classes, it's really hard to suss anything out. So some initiative outside. And then for those of you who aren't CS or EECS, I'm looking like marketing or sales or any of these. I am actually looking for you to have used Cloud Code. So that is also something that org uses heavily these days. So if you're trying to get if you're trying to get a job and maybe you've never wrote code or never wrote software, it's actually almost okay these days. I mean, it's great if you know a little bit or can use it a little bit, but my entire almost everyone in my marketing org uses Cursor versus Cloud Code these days. But yeah, that's probably my vote or note to all of you. If you do that, you're actually setting yourself up for and you're not CS, you're actually setting yourselves up for the future of those orgs. You'd be surprised how much Claude code is showing up in non-CS orgs right now. Yeah.
Doing your homework about the company, doing some projects to differentiate yourself, staying up to date with the latest tech trends.
Yeah.
I think those are all great advice on how to stand out. For students, we have students who are freshmen through seniors, maybe some grad students as well. But for students who maybe don't really know what they want to do yet, that's also like some team with some students as well. Have you ever felt like, I don't know what I want to do while you guys were in college, and how did you guys kind of manage that, and how did you find the passion? And we can start with you and then go over there.
Yeah, I mean, I started when software wasn't cool. Like, I don't know, it's much cooler than it was. Like, I was in a basement. So did Hall was just being built. The CS program was like I think in basement of Evans, and like yellow screens, and like you're off in a corner, and it was pretty bad. I was like, do I really want to do this? And so yeah, you have huge doubts about it, and it's much the CS Neeks is much cooler nowadays, and and even if you're doubting, like, oh, there's all this automation, what happens to CS? My bet is still this is like an amazing. It is such an amazing skill to have. You can build so much with it. Like, the future is absolutely here. I've very little doubt. So, stick with it. And then, I think find the thing you like, but that you can also build upon. So, it's my advice.
Thank you, Jason.
Yeah, that's pretty good advice. I would say if you have top options that you're exploring, it's hard to find the thing that you're passionate about and want to spend the next 20 years of your life doing, but I bet there's areas that you can find these are the top contenders and I'm gonna go explore them deeply. So I think that's good. The other one is, in the absence of the one thing you're passionate about, just find the hardest thing and then go do that extremely well. Because the way to kind of kill the advice I gave previously, actually, of oh, you want to push, if you're a really great programmer, or if you're a really great marketer, if you're really great at a more horizontal thing, people will kind of call you for all kinds of opportunities. And then when you decide what area you actually want to hill climb, then you'll actually be quite good at adding value there, and you'll just have to add the vertical skills. And so, to what you said is just, find my thing would be find the top things you want to explore them deeply, but also just be really good. And then people will just pull you to really cool opportunities. And that's very hard, by the way. Again, easier said than done. It's 16-hour days in the library, actual projects, actual coding, being really, really consistent and disciplined is probably the hardest part about anything of what we're talking about today. And so, I can say all these, but take these with a grain of salt. Yeah.
How about Cobi?
I mean, college is all about figuring shit out, trying things, and seeing if you like them. So, absolutely. I thought I was going to go work in foreign policy and Middle East policy. I did an internship in the arena, absolutely hated it, and did not do that again. I'd say for anything that you're really excited about, go try it. Get an internship, even if you have to do it for free. Just do whatever you need to get the exposure, and then see if you like it. And if you like it, double down. If you don't, try something else. And you don't have, it doesn't have to be through internships, of course. It can be through projects. It can be through other, you can start a company while you're with friends, while you're in college. There are a lot of ways to do it. But I think just real exposure is the most important thing. Things are just different in a classroom setting than they are in real life.
Thank you for that. I hope everyone is preparing their questions, because I'm going to move on to my last question here, kind of wrapping up on the advice is, what's one thing you would want everyone in this room to hear and leave with that piece of advice? Changing times, changing everything. It could be about anything. It could be about life. It could be about classes. It could be about the industry, career.
I don't know if everyone realizes how much. It's a little hypey AI, but this stuff is really going to change a lot. I see the edges. What's unique about us is we see company after company what every team's doing. So hundreds of people, sometimes 30 plus teams, and a name your top tech company. And it's changing massive amounts of stuff. And so but be curious, be driven, use the stuff a lot so that you realize how the tools work. It's a tool. It's not a replacement. It's a tool by far. And so the more you can use those tools and this tool, you're also probably have an edge. I don't think you realize it, but there's a whole generation that's probably a decade behind you, 2 decades behind you, that's not quite adopting as fast. You don't have all the biases. So be ready. This stuff's really gonna change a lot, but it's a tool. It's not a replacement. And learn that, my advice, go learn that tool. And a little hint of what's to come, I think.
Oh, well, Alfredo.
That's a really hard question. And yeah, I mean, this is just one thing. It's not like maybe the thing, but I would say do not forget that stuff. Personal hard work and personal efforts really compound. And it's easy to forget that when you're in Berkeley, when you're in college, for 2 reasons. Everyone is coming from very, very different backgrounds. And so when you get to college, you see the person that is barely doing any work and that is barely putting any effort. And suddenly you're working 13-hour days and they're just doing just as well as you. Actually, they might be doing much better. And you don't see a lot of the backgrounds, but I promise you, stuff compounds. And if you keep working really, really hard towards the stuff that you want, and you keep putting in the discipline every day and the hard work hours, and it's not 4 years, it might be 8, it might be 12, but suddenly, like with any compounding equation, you start to see massive differences between that person that wasn't trying and the person that was putting in a lot of effort. But a lot of people, they get from trying really hard in high school and they arrive in college and they're like, wait, what was the point? Like, everyone's here because, as you know, when in the early days of compounding, the differences are so tiny that you're like, wait, what was the point of all of that? But no, it takes like a decade. It takes 12 years and you start seeing it. And so don't give up. Don't think that there's no compounding simply because it's small these days, and just keep working extremely hard towards the things you want, and your expectations will be massively exceeded if you do that. And so it gets really exciting.
Great piece of advice. How about Cobi?
I think it's really important to consistently reevaluate what makes you happy and fulfilled. And it's fine for that to change, and it probably will change. And consistently grappling with that as you think about not just work, but life, and what's important to you and how you allocate your time, is just something I wasn't nearly as deliberate about when I was in college. Became more deliberate about over the past few years, but I think is just something that's really helpful to keep thinking about.
I think those are all great 3 pieces of advices that I hope everyone is taking a note of. Now we're gonna pass around the mics. You can raise your hand. You can ask any question that you have in mind to our panelists. And yeah, let's see some hands. I'll pass this one too.
Yeah, thank you guys for being here. I saw that all of you have co-founder in your title, and I was just wondering, what's the importance of having a co-founder, someone like alongside you, and what do you think are some of the best things to consider when you're choosing who to found a company with?
Oh God, that is actually a really good question. In both companies, I kind of got lucky, I think, with a good founder partner. So it's like going on the hardest journey you could possibly imagine. And do you want to go on it alone, or do you want someone else in your misery with you? And so it really, it's someone that, like, you're gonna have hard moments where you just don't know. There's so many times where both companies almost died. Like, and it's not just the company dies, but you have like people with families below you that, like, it's a big deal. Lots of stress, and I think there's a lot of sharing of impossible, like doing the impossible is literally what you're trying to set out to do. It's really hard to get to that next stage and build these things that are enduring. And so having someone who can understand, you can brainstorm with, who can take on some portion of the company while you're working on another portion of the company, someone to just, you're at a cliff, and like, how do you climb it, or how do you get over and scale this thing? It's really helpful to have someone you'll have days where they're like have some advice for you and like pushing you, you're pushing them, and so it's really hard to do alone. But there are people who do it, and I'm definitely, you'll find someone who you can just be in the worst, toughest situation with and power through, and you help, that's the person you'd want to be there with. That's my advice.
Any other takes here?
Well, I'll add this. Yeah, it's just really hard. Very important. Well, I'll add one fun fact, actually. I don't know if you know this, but one of your co-founders at TubeMogul is one of our first angel investors. Yes, and so Brett Wilson, I've heard many of their war stories, and they've gone through it. And it's been very helpful to have that ecosystem. And for the co-founders themselves, it's really hard. It's like if you ask me here on stage, well, maybe not me because I'm single, but like if you asked him, like, how do I find a wife? It's like an incredibly complex question, but like the broad strokes is A, you definitely want one, and then B, like you're gonna be with them for like a really, really long time, and it's gonna get extremely tough, and that should be like your one constant of the thing that you can kind of go back to and pull from. And so do not cede anything there. Like it should be a very, very like close person, ideally someone you've worked with before and have been in tough situations with, and that have fought with and have resolved things with. And so it's a really hard question, but it's one of the most important ones. And for me, it's been one of the most helpful things towards building Latch has been having two incredible co-founders that I respect and admire and want to work with forever. Yeah.
I'm going to pass it over here.
Hi, thank you guys for being here. I'm curious, with these emergent tools that are getting ever more efficient at sort of automating the coding piece, which I think used to be really a central skill of the CS degree, what do you see now as like the main takeaway that we should be trying to learn by going through with a CS degree from Berkeley?
Yeah, CS is still really important. So don't I think the foundation, I think it's going to be very hard to build the next phase without that foundation. So don't you're all in a good spot. My view of what's happening in some of the best companies, including, I hopefully I put ours in it right now, is I think a lot of what we're doing is building, it's layers upon layers. We're building the scaffolding so the automation can work correctly. And so, and so like we're still building software, don't get me wrong. But I think there's a shift in that view. And so I think system design, I think product, having a little bit of product understanding the customer is really powerful now. Like it's almost like your function's slightly higher. And then understanding the new tools is impossibly important. So it's like the people who are really good technically, system design, and can use the new tools in awesome ways is like your 10x engineer went to 100x at that point. Like they have 10 work trees going, and they're people are delivering insane amounts of stuff and debugging this over here, and like just stuff that is insane. But to have that intuition of what to fix that a customer won't throw up on or will like, and those things are now even more important. So it's almost like you work on the bigger skills too, I would say.
Any other takes on that question?
I think product taste is becoming so important and one of the most difficult skills to find. By that, I mean like knowing what to build and what it should look like.
Yeah.
The execution layer, still very important to understand the architecture and sort of the fundamentals, but it is being delegated more and more to automated tools. So I think like system architecture and then product taste are probably like the two ends of the spectrum.
Yeah. We've had a weird one recently where like there's been a switch recently where like I have a competitor who's I think has a little bit better UX than us and better an edge, and we're working on it. But there's been a switch recently in market where like our agent interface, we're calling it AX, is actually really important. It's almost and what does that mean? Well, the users of your product, we're thinking about starting in cursor Claude Code. And how does my product feel if I start there? Well, it's skills, and how does skills interface? And so there's this whole, again, new world that's coming. And if you know the tools, the new tools, and so there's this whole like, what does my agent experience feel like? Is it going, how long is it taking to do this? How many calls is it taking? And like, so there's all this new stuff coming out that's in addition to that. But I think if you have product taste, you'll hopefully have product taste in the agent world too. So.
All right, we have Mike all the way at the back.
Yeah, I think everyone or all potential founders in this room can benefit from this question, but you guys all mentioned how if there's a pain point that's deep enough, someone will invest you on the spot. How do you like identify that depth, you know, before you actually like build anything? Is there a moment where you guys knew that your product respectively was like real enough, or did you have to get told like no a bunch of times before actually understanding where to start?
Yeah, I mean, on my side, I have like 2 product lines that were kind of different. And in one case, which I think is the right one, is the first company I built, I had there was a pain point in market, and it was just like these video sites were launching, and they had no idea what was happening after they'd launched a website, and we came in with a bunch of tools that helped them analyze it, monetize it. So that pain was super real. Like people you'd show them the product, and I'd almost have them install it the next day. And that's like, you know, that's what you're looking, like, you'll know pain is real if people are using it every day. You'll know pain is real if your platform goes down and 5 minutes later they're calling you complaining. Like that's probably that vertical. The other vertical I just started, I mentioned I was showing you the clickable mock, and I was pitching a bit more. I think it was more us figuring out the right thing to build. It started there. The market finally caught up, and now it feels like the other one did. But it was a little earlier, and I was like pushing versus pulling. So I don't think either was wrong. I think there's a little product-led version, you know, product-led meaning the product's getting picked up versus, you know, founder-led or sales-led.
Any other takes on finding the pain point?
I'll add some stuff, and I'd be curious on your perspective too, since you were doing it more from like a personal experience. I think for us, a lot of people told us like, oh no, you need to get a PhD if you are gonna contribute to if you're gonna build a company in biology, you need a PhD in bio. And they were wrong in that I still don't have a PhD. They were like right in that I kind of got a PhD from Latch in the past 5 years. And it was just like this insane, just like going at it. And if I look at the early days, to your question, like if I look at the first year or two and I look at the ideas and the main reason why they were wrong and why they didn't hit with the customer, it was probably because I didn't really understand the rugged domain of like the state of the art well enough to point out where the biggest holes were. And if I look at why today things are working better, why things are growing, why my intuition, my product intuition even, is much better, is because I've been doing this so long that I would claim I understand where the state of the art of computational biology is, what users are doing. And, PG has this really great kind of analogy where he calls like the state of the art is not like from really far away, like any horizon, it looks all smooth. And so if you look at CompBio, you would see like this very smooth. And so to really see, if you get really close and personal and you play around with it and you explore it, you find out that it's actually really rugged. And you want to be building in those holes because it means some other technology has already advanced, but maybe something got left behind and you're like, oh, obviously that's going that direction. And you start seeing these things because you're very, very deep. And so either do that in a PhD or do that in a company or do that in someone else's company. Like you don't have to do it while building a company, but you definitely have to do it at some point before you're able to have that good product intuition that allows you to see those holes.
Do you have something to add, Cobi, on that?
I agree with that. I think the only other thing to think about is like, there's no formula and it's really hard to know but there are a lot of variables, and I think isolating the variables is important. Sometimes it's you have the right product, you're just talking to the wrong people, and like they're not the right people to be using your product. Sometimes you have the wrong product. Sometimes you are using the wrong channel to get your product to those people, and if you switch the channel you used, everything would be fine. So like there are a lot of these different variables, and it's really hard to know. A lot of it is just judgment and intuition that you develop over time, which I know is not a helpful answer, but is probably just true.
All right, let's see hands.
There's a question there, and there's one here.
So first off, I'd like to thank you all for being here and speaking amongst all My question's actually more directed to Jason here. It's more specific to Arize, but so like I read up a little bit about what your company does. I'm familiar with like how you mentioned like AI observability, like reducing model hallucination and model degradation. I was wondering, as like frontier models improve, like OpenAI, Claude, right? And they're building more like native evaluation tools. How is your company dealing with that sort of encroachment?
Yeah, I mean that's a good question. So first off, I would say what I see right now, and just a hint for all of you, and they're not even probably teaching in school right now, is like a lot of the intelligence and magic is what's happening at the harness layer, which is a layer above the model. So if you pull apart, and you can point Claude Code at Claude Code, or you can find prompts online of Claude Code. A lot of the magic's occurring at that layer. And so whether it's Claude Code or Cursor, or whether a company after company is building their own orchestration layers, we focus on solutions there for helping people make that layer work really well. And I think that's where intelligence is coming from, a layer above. And so for us, I think if you're trying to eval intelligence and evaluate means just proxy for understanding performance. Think of it as a teacher grading a student, but on tasks or trajectories. That like if you're a company and purchasing this, you don't just have Claude. Like if Anthropic's selling that tool, it's got to work with OpenAI. OpenAI shut off Windsurf right the day they heard, Anthropic shut off Windsurf as soon as they heard OpenAI was acquiring. So from our Datadog is my best analogy. By the way, they're an investor too. Is that people are multi-cloud. Datadog's software to help you troubleshoot your cloud, your infrastructure, and people are multi-model. And so I don't think it's a natural thing actually it's going to be harder for the model vendors to take over the eval space. I think they want to. I think they have a lot of technical talent to think about it, but they don't have any products yet. And I think there's an inherent friction in coming our direction.
We have a question in the back, and then we'll go to the front, and then we'll go there.
All right. Hey, everyone. Thank you for giving out this talk. Can you share a little bit more about your funding, what it took to get to pre-seed, seed, Series A, and then who did you speak with and why did you go with those VCs?
We've raised a couple $100 million. It's a lot in that question. Ideally, you can choose your investors. Sometimes you can't. So there's a little bit of a reality of broadly. I'll try to take these one at a time. It takes usually takes a lot of conversations unless you're a second-time founder to raise money. You'll get a lot of no's. It's one of the reasons starting a company sucks and is very frustrating because potential customers, potential candidates, potential investors are all telling you you're an idiot every day by saying no to you. And so eventually it just starts to creep in. Am I an idiot? Maybe. Hard to know. But it takes a lot of no's to get to yeses, and that's totally normal. Things you can do to increase your odds in fundraising are just always being really thoughtful about who you're talking to, not wasting time with investors who are not likely to like you for a lot of reasons, and running a really tight process. The process actually matters so much more than you might expect. And there are different strategies and different ways, and we can talk about this offline of how you raise, because that's almost as important as what you're pitching sometimes. But broadly, there's that. It also really depends on the type of investor you want to work with. Some people want a lot of help. Some people want no help. Some people want investors who are specialists and experts in what they're building. Some people don't care. So it's really about being thoughtful about what you want and what's helpful to you, and what you think you're going to need. VCs have been very successful at convincing the world that raising VC money is good, but it's really not. You should raise money when you need to raise money, but ultimately, you're selling your company. Right, you're selling a piece. It's a transaction. You're selling a piece of your company. I think VCs have created this they're basically marketing companies at this point. Most of them, basically saying we are great. Give us access to your company, and the reality is, again, you are selling your company for a much lower valuation or much lower price than it will hopefully be worth in a year or 2 years or 5 years. So it's like the minimum amount you can raise to maximize your chances is like probably the more correct heuristic. There are exceptions again, like maybe the thing you're building, capital is the moat, but that's not the norm. So not getting caught up in like the VC status game is also another thing that's, I think, helpful to think about.
Yeah, I think that covers most of the good stuff, and it's actually really good advice overall. Everything. I would only add to that, and again, there's part he said where it's like the round dynamic actually matters a lot, and most of you would be surprised to the extent of money that gets done on FOMO. It is like actually just mind blowing.
100% of it.
Yeah, it's like
all investments are FOMO,
which is great.
100% of them.
But I would say like up to like a Series A or Series B's like get done on lots of FOMO that you just like.
No, dude, D's, E's, F's.
Yeah, exactly.
All of them are FOMO.
So it's like, it's crazy to think about like as students, as like early founders, it's like all FOMO. So round dynamics, and if you want to talk about that offline, happy to follow up because it's a lot. But what I will say is one of the most beautiful things that has happened in technology and in the Valley in the past 30 years is that costs of so many things have gone down so much that suddenly people have stopped having to ask for permission. Like that's why, I mean, Series A's used to be the first round and you had to be like someone very prominent and executive and you would go like raise a lot of money because you needed to buy servers and you needed to buy like all these computers and you needed to pay a lot of executives and people and build a product for a year. And you could probably tell us more about that. And then suddenly like AWS came off and the cloud came out and Linux and open source. And suddenly in 2004, Mark Zuckerberg starts a company out of his dorm room. Like most of us don't remember. That was mind blowing for that unique reason, other than the fact like he didn't need to convince anyone to give them money. People were throwing money at him because he had already done something of value with very little money. I think he started with like a couple $100, which hopefully anyone here can get. And so it's like that's the type of stuff that we are now enabled by as students. And I would recommend, to his thing about VC money, don't raise VC money. Like when you're raising VC money, it should be because it's just so clear that you found something that you really need the money to scale, not because you want the sexy A16C logo. I swear, like it's not that helpful for sales. And it's also just like not that like overall helpful. And so just don't ask for permission, go do it and then wait for people to want to give you money.
You have something to add on that,
I think, I mean, everyone's kind of said some good stuff. I mean, so we're 130 million raised, and this category will be raising hundreds of millions more. And yeah, I think the like fundraising is so weird. And I've done a number of rounds in my life, and every time I'm like, oh my god, like you do it. You might do it once a year if you're maybe it's once every year and a half, like a decent clip. The VCs do it every week. And so it's this really weird dynamic where they know how this thing should go. And the whole process is very, I mean, the whole thing is so foreign. Nothing is normal. And you're right, it's all about FOMO. Like if you think that, if that's the way in which you look at the other side, how do you build a fear on that side of missing out on investment. So yeah, and I think there's more investment ever, at least at the seed stage. So you all can probably pull capital with just with very little, which wasn't the case for many years. So there's probably there's an ability to start something right now in this industry in this time in a way that like was impossible or very hard many years ago.
We have a question in front.
Yeah, hi. So first and foremost, it's very nice hearing from you all. I'm having a great time. So I'm a little intrigued with like the AI ML suite space, and I see that you're all hiring for that. And I know that job can kind of look different across all companies. So I was wondering how it would be at your company, what you're expecting, and if you have unique expectations for all of your employees to hold.
Yeah. I mean, we're hiring a lot. So if you're obviously come grab me. Maybe that's please do. And whether it's EECS or CS degrees or whether marketing positions, even if you're not graduating right now, and you want to do like AI writing, oh my God, help us write. If you want to learn the space and go write some great pieces, if you're, again, that's probably a little ECS, yeah, come see us. I think, again, the things that we look for a lot are going to be, I do think the Cloud Code thing I'll hit on constantly, you all should just, whether you're CS or not, should be using that. And then then for us, we're, it's all types of positions that we're hiring for right now. I don't know if that was the question, but yeah.
All right, next question we have. Mike, who has over there?
Oh, yes. Can you hear me? So I actually had a question for Cobi. So I guess, why did you choose to develop like an enterprise approach to solving like this Medicare problem, as opposed to some sort of like policy making or like government regulation lobbying sort of approach to solving it? So I just personally, like, what I believe is like Medicare is some sort of political government issue. So I was kind of curious, like, as to like where this approach is coming from and what benefits there are to having some sort of an enterprise approach to this.
I think it's both. This was a lot of my experience at Palantir. I spent a lot of my time at Palantir not lobbying, because you can't call yourself a lobbyist for legal reasons if you don't do certain things, but spending a lot of time with policymakers trying to convince them to change how they operate. There are a lot of benefits to building something. I think the most succinct way to say this, Dr. Karp, who's the CEO of Palantir, has this amazing thing that he says. He was at there's a DC conference called Hill and Valley, which is like tech world and policy world, at a conference every March. And last year at the conference, the interviewer asked, he published a book a year and a half ago. And it's the same stuff he's been talking about for 20 years. And the interviewer asked him, where'd you come up with these ideas? They're so novel, they're so interesting. And Karp was like, I've been saying the same shit for 20 years. It's only now that Palantir has built this like behemoth that people actually care. And he said, you have to build a palace upon which people can gaze before they care about you. I think there's so much truth to that. Like, if you haven't built something in the arena, then you don't have standing to influence policy to change anything. Like, the other side of it would be, okay, go become a senator, go become a governor, go become the president, which you can try to do, but probably won't happen and will take a lot of time. Or you can try to build something that solves at least some of the problems in the near term and gives you the right to access the more policy problems. And then it takes a lot of work. Like, I'm in DC literally every week, even though I hate DC, to talk to these people and try to convince them to change a lot of the regulation. But I only have any credibility because of what we've built privately.
Yeah. Okay, thank you so much for coming, guys. My question really is just, when I'm doing homework and an idea pops in my head, I usually write it down and post a note, do 10 minutes of Gemini, research the idea. Then I talk to some friends about, I'm talking about like a new startup idea or whatever. I guess I want to hear your guys' journey of how you actually translate that to us building something. So I talk to my friends and then they're like, oh, well, that sounds this and then that. And then, I'll go and try to start it and then it's nothing. So I guess, and then also where to invest that time. There's so many things that pop up and I'm a student, I'm doing interviews, homework and so much. So just hearing about that experience for you guys of actually building something just from having an idea.
Yeah, I can comment briefly on that. I would say, my advice is you're young, you have time, just explore your curiosities and don't build a company at the moment. Just build the idea, pursue the idea. It doesn't matter. The whole point when you remove the complexity of having to build a company, of having to make money, then you can just explore your curiosities. And then you can just focus on becoming better at those domains that you're actually genuinely just curious about. And then just do that for a while. Get really good at building these ideas, playing with your curiosity, learning. At some point, if you were like, oh no, I want to go build a company today and I don't care about your advice to go explore, I would say then stop doing any of that and go talk to people and ask them to pay you for things and put research together and then go talk to them again and ask them to advise you. And it's not about the building. It's about actually the money and the dollars and the pain points. And so that would be my second advice. But again, my first advice is just explore your curiosity. You have time and just there's so much cool stuff out there that you might not hit on if you were just pursuing the dollars, that now's the perfect time for you to just work with friends on cool things.
Yeah. I second. I mean, definitely second that. My note for you all is it can be really hard in school to understand what the business pains are because you're not in business. So that's a little disadvantage you have in that you're guessing, and so sometimes maybe you need to find a pain that you can relate to, and go after, and sometimes and some of those could be just again like build something that you would use, and again maybe that's related to Claude Code in some way, maybe it's related to agents in some way. Like there's just a lot there to go do that you might use yourself or your friends might use or you might be able to show is valuable. So that would be my advice. The other thing you could do is just talk to companies. If you have an idea, what I would do is go see if you can sell it. Like this original idea is like, if you really think it's real, don't talk to your friends, talk to someone who might buy it. And that's probably the best, vetting of whatever you have.
We'll have a final question from Marcia, but then y'all can come onto the stage and ask your questions. It's going to be open networking, Marcia.
Sorry for stealing a question, you guys. My question is from, as a person who works with students here at UC Berkeley, I would like to know what kind of opportunity is there for students who are, but professionals also who are women, and if you have any women in your co-founder groups, and how do you view, because I know that you talked about maybe working 12, 14 hours and getting really good at something, or you, Cobi, talked about not really sketching a job description, but meeting that person and finding the best position for that person. But how will that come into play in terms of opportunity and being, fair in the terms of who you are hiring?
I mean, my co-founder is a woman. She's Berkeley Eeks as well. So go Bears. She's amazing. I think it's great to have it's a nice balance, to be honest, an awesome balance. She's many times harder driving than myself, in times, or sometimes I'm harder driving. But I think it's great. I think it's great to have. I still think from a from an organization perspective, I still think it's really important to build something that obviously obviously there's a bar of people that you want, but there's also this nice combination sometimes where everyone isn't the same as you, I think, or doesn't think the same as you. So I think we like that a lot, and I think that helps build a company that has different, hopefully we're rowing in the same direction, not always, but helps us. I don't know. It's just, I think it's a better environment. So I think there's a lot of components of that I think she's helped bring to my org and to our org, and I think I think it's helpful to have that. I think it's hard to find a co-founder, so I got lucky. I think it sometimes it's just so hard to find that person you're going to marry, and that it's hard to say who they're going to be, and so I think you also have to find that right person, and whoever they are is who they are. It's almost impossibly hard to find. So I think it's sometimes really hard to find that other founder that it's hard enough to find that person in the first place. My 2 cents. Yeah.
Thanks, Jason. Any other thoughts here? Okay, with that, let's hear a huge round of applause for our speakers. They all shared amazing advice. I'm gonna pop a QR code. You guys can scan this QR code for the feedback form. Please do fill it out. And right now, after you scan it, you can fill that now or after the event. You all can come onto the stage, ask them questions, the questions you have, network, apply all the advice that you got from the founders to themselves right now. But thanks.